Hello, everyone. I'm Deb Lester.
And I'm Sarah Lester. This is episode 4 of the Lester Leadership Series. This series explores AEC industry trends, highlighting the voices of industry leaders and examining how COVID-19 has impacted jobs and the workplace.
Today, we are speaking to someone we have come to admire, an industry leader, a friend, and our neighbor, Kathryn Cahill, CEO of Cahill Contractors, a highly reputable, over 100-year-old San Francisco-based company that has literally helped create the skyline of San Francisco, high-rises, while weaving the fabric of her people through affordable housing and nonprofit endeavors. After obtaining degrees from Dartmouth and Stanford, Kathryn joined Cahill Contractors as a project engineer in 2007, becoming the 4th generation of the Cahill family to work in the construction business. Kathryn held positions in project management, pre-construction, and operations before taking on the CEO role in 2016. She's a member of the board of directors of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce and the mother of 3 beautiful children.
So happy to see you and speak to you today. Thank you for being here. So our first question, yeah, of course. So our first question just goes into your company's background. Your company's long successful history is tied to my family in an unusual way. Tell us a bit how the history of your company. We know that your grandfather helped in the creation of a nonprofit, Youth for Services, with our CEO's father, my grandfather, Orville Lester, back in the 60s by gifting a building in San Francisco. Our family legacies are tied, and we are so grateful. If you have anything else to add to this story, we'd love to hear you talk about it.
And all the history of
all the history.
Yeah. Well, the company was founded by my great-grandfather, J.R. Cahill, and I believe actually he's the one that was most involved with your father's company, Youth for Service. And he ran a construction company. He did it with his brother initially, and then with his 4 sons. And I think being in the construction business, he thought it was a great way to give back by helping young people and disadvantaged young people find a way into the business. And so that was really his passion. And that was how he got very involved in Youth for Service. And I don't know the details of how that ended, but I know that it was, really his biggest passion in his side world of outside of his actual business. And to this day, the company, the family still has, some money that he left as a legacy that we use to invest in helping disadvantaged youth and young adults find jobs and good jobs like those in the construction industry, but also elsewhere now. So it's really a legacy that our family has carried on. So it's a great history and something that J.R. Cahill, I think, left behind in addition to founding a great company that's now been in existence for over 100 years.
Yeah, that's great.
And tell us more about what you do and the history of the company after, before and the 4 generations, et cetera.
Yeah, and the company's evolved a lot over the 4 generations. It was initially my great-grandfather and his brother was involved for a while as well. And they did both real estate development. They initially did a lot of engineering and mining. And when Prohibition ended, they did wineries and breweries as that was coming back. And so they evolved and then eventually got into development and larger buildings and really started to build a lot of skyscrapers. And then my great-grandfather had 4 sons that all went off to World War II. And when they came back, they all joined the business in some capacity. They continued to build a lot of skyscrapers, mostly in San Francisco, a lot of office buildings, but a few residential and other things. And then the 3rd generation, it went to my father, one of his brothers, and one of their cousins, so 3 of them. And they ran the business together for a short while and then decided that the real estate and construction arms really weren't working as closely together anymore as they had been. So they split, and my father really ran the construction side of the business for starting in the 80s all the way through the 2000s. And then I joined and became the 4th generation. And through his time and into the time that I took over, we really switched. San Francisco for a while stopped building high rises altogether. So we got into some other markets. And now we build really all around the Bay Area. We have an office in Oakland as well as San Francisco now. We build a lot of affordable housing, a lot of community buildings for nonprofit clients like churches and schools and temples and all sorts of things that are great parts of our community. And we love building those buildings that help build up our community. So we have now about 120 people in our office and another 200 or so in our field. And we're a company that's going strong after 100 years, which is great.
It's incredible. It's super successful. And according to the data, this is really interesting when you're looking at women in industry, only 1% of CEOs in the construction industry globally are made up of women, with the industry only benefiting from 1.25% of women in the workforce. So what's it like being a woman, like your husband calls you a unicorn, like you are this woman in the industry that is definitely dominated by men. And how is that for you?
There are pluses and minuses to that. It's certainly, it's an industry that's changing. So I would say that women are way more common even now than they were when I started in 2007. On the one hand, there have been a ton of people that are extremely supportive of it. They love seeing the industry changing and think it's really neat that it's not only a fourth generation business, but I'm now a woman as a CEO. A lot of our nonprofit clients have a lot of women in management, and they've been super receptive and excited about it. And in general, I think as diversity becomes more and more important and more part of the conversation, there are times when it really is an add and a bonus and something different. Now, there are also times when I think being a woman, I don't have the natural ability to build sort of networking relationships and client relationships as easily as some of my male colleagues do. And commercial real estate for a lot of sectors is really still very male dominated, almost more so than the construction industry. So on some types of projects, it's much easier for my male colleagues to play more of the business development role. And I kind of read that and let them take the lead where it makes sense. So it's got its ups and downs, but it's been an interesting road. And I love the fact that there are women that are following me and behind me and seeing that and certainly climbing the ladder. And I think that's encouraging to know that at least I'm showing that there's a way for it to work and that women can get it done well in the industry.
Yeah, definitely. And as a follow-up to that question, because there might be some young women who are watching this, what advice would you give to women who are thinking about joining the construction industry?
Well, I think first of all, knowing that there are women in the industry is huge. And I think I didn't join the family business right away, probably because growing up, there were no women to look at and to think, oh, I can do that. So it took me a while until I came around and said, no, I think I can do this. So I want women thinking about it to know that there are women in the industry. There are more and more women every day now, and there are women that are being really successful. So know that we're out there. I think, as you are looking at potential schools and jobs, there are some that have great programs with really strong groups of women. And to the extent that can be a factor in choosing a job where it's going to be you're going to be supported. I think that's a great thing to look at. But there are certain sectors of construction that are not in certain geographies. And so if that is the case, then there are also great organizations outside. There are organizations that support women in real estate, women in construction. And those are great organizations to go find a mentor or just have some support and know that it can be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's my dog.
That's okay. We're looking at potential rain coming in. So this is what Zoom interviews are so great. So if we have to move around a little bit, you'll know it's because we're in the rain. So we've been also asking the questions of how COVID has changed the way you work. And obviously you're at your home right now, I'm assuming. Yes. What we love to ask is to have you give us the roses, thorns, and buds, which is what you like about COVID, what you haven't liked, and what you're looking forward to as you're coming through COVID.
Yeah. I think COVID had a lot of thorns throughout. And so I will start with that, but some of those thorns I think have turned, we've found the roses through it. So Running a construction company is hard because during COVID, a good number of our people were essential workers. They had to go to work every day. And they bore such stress in that as a leader, it was really hard to know that they were working so hard. And I was unfortunately, at home and more or less and leading from behind, and a lot of our office staff was at home. So it was hard for them, but it was really hard for those of us that were at home too, those of us that had kids that were doing homeschool, but even those of us that didn't have kids, and just knowing when to shut off the work and when to get up and take a walk. And it's just it was a different life. There were people that didn't see anybody else for days. We have people that started with us over a year ago that I haven't met in person.
Wow.
And so getting to know that culture. I'm sorry, can I let the dog out?
Yeah,
Hold on one second.
This is what Zoom interviews are all about. It makes podcasts and videos fun. And we're coming to you live, not so live, from Hawaii. So if it starts to rain, we're going to pull our computer in.
It's about to rain.
Which is about to rain. We're telling.
So sorry about that. There's clearly someone in the neighbor's yard that's driving her insane. Anyways, lots of challenges with COVID. We were lucky that we held it together, and our team came through really well and got stronger. So that's one of the roses. Another rose being a working mom who was before getting up and commuting every day full time to the job site or the office or both in a day, and then coming home at the end of the day to 3 kids. It was a lot of rushing, and now my days are much more intertwined because the kids come running in between meetings, and sometimes it's an interruption, but a lot of times I get to see them for a few minutes and catch up on their day before they go off to their next thing, and I go off to my next thing. So able to volunteer at the school and getting back into school. So there are a lot of positives in terms of feeling like I'm more a part of my kids' lives during the workday, as opposed to just having it separate. And all of that commute time here in the Bay Area, all of my people were commuting really long hours before COVID. And so the idea of saving that time, being able to repurpose it towards your kids or towards getting that last bit of work done or towards getting a run or a walk in or something, I think is great for everybody. So, thinking about the buds, we were an industry that was very opposed to working from home or working remotely. I mean, we didn't even know how to do it when COVID hit. We had to send out instructions on how to have a video call. And now we've shown that it can work. I think we want to have some element of people together because that's the culture and the social aspects of work, that the teamwork, the collaboration, are very collaborative industry. So we want to keep that going, but we also want to give people who can do it with their job and get it done that flexibility to maybe skip that commute a couple days a week and repurpose that time. It's a quality of life. It's also productivity at work and at home. And so I think that's a positive for the industry. And the industry in general has just broken a lot of barriers through COVID. We've done inspections via, FaceTime. And if an architect wasn't on site, you can show them a little video or FaceTime with them and show them something on site and get real-time answers, as opposed to waiting 3 days until they could drive the hour down to the site and take a look. So I think it's propelled our industry into a more creative, more evolutionary approach to construction, which is great. Our industry needed that little push.
That's great. And a lot of efficiencies. And I understand when reading about you that you pushed your company as well, like getting new software and really kind of elevating the industry by your leadership. So great job. I mean, across the board. So
yeah, this industry is in a really fun time from a technology standpoint. There's, we're behind a lot of the world, but there's a lot of catching up that's going on, a lot of new products that are constantly coming out. So we're still evolving. We're only partway there in technology adoption, but that's a fun part of my job to think about how we can do things better and faster and cheaper.
Well, we just want to thank you so much for being part of our day.
Yeah,
and
you.
We are inspired by the way you're elevating women in your industry and across the board in a hugely male-dominated industry, and doing it your way. We look forward to spending more time with you in the future, and potentially in person, since we aren't far apart from each other, and having maybe more interviews and more time with you, which would be so much fun.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And apologies for my dog.
No, thank you. It's been wonderful being with you.